Alright, I am back. I might have forgot to mute. That's okay. Alright, so we're watching Coffeehouse Crime. Blah, 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 blah. Obsessed killer X tries to flee. Doesn't know he was recorded on CCTV. This is a Coffeehouse Crime released 8 hours ago. You guys already know I'm a big fan. Fucking love Coffeehouse Crime. Gotta stop cussing. Let's go.
What would you do if a partner you were seeing suddenly became possessive, obsessive, and outright violent towards you? When 22
I mean, been through it. Story of my life. And story of the life of plenty of people out there, not just men. I mean, not just women, but men too. Men too. Happens to everybody.
2-year-old nursing student Haley Anderson found friendship with Orlando Tessero, she had no idea how desperately he would cling to her. And sadly, all of this would end in the most horrific of ways. But
Sorry guys, I know I'm pausing this really quick again, but like, I told you I just bought that fuzzy little pink carpet for under my desk, and all I can feel right now is my toes just sinking in right. It feels so good!
who was Orlando?
Good purchase, happy Coco.
How did he manage to flee the country? And how would his unique circumstances make this case so complicated in the courtroom?
Oh, hold on, I forgot the Pepsi. We forgot the Pepsi. I put it on ice and everything. Right? No, it's so Donnie. Happy. I'm so happy right now. You guys can't see it, but I'm kicking my feet. I'm literally kicking my feet.
Welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime, folks. My name is Adrian.
Ah! Adrian's growing in the okay. Okay, Adrian. Getting a little gruffy, getting a little grizzly.
And today, we're traveling to New York State to look at how a tumultuous obsession turned into a tragic horror story. It was in March of 2018 that the city of Binghamton woke up to some very distressing news. But by the time the authorities realized who the killer was, he had already fled the country. And what happened next was very complex and situational. By the way, Coffeehouse Crime is all about true crime, strange and chilling stories. So if you'd like to see more stories like this one, please consider subscribing. It really does help me out. Thank you. And now, with that said, please grab yourself a coffee and let's caffeinate while we investigate. This is the case of Haley Anderson.
Alright, let's find out what happened to Haley, y'all.
As a pesky Brit, when I hear the words New York, I immediately think of the Big Apple. But today, we're traveling 170 miles northwest to a small city named Binghamton, found in New York State. Thanks to its beautiful Victorian architecture, well-kept neighborhoods, pristine zoos, and conservation efforts, Binghamton has been given Welcometon, found in New York State.
I want to see that tiger
Thanks
again.
to its beautiful Victorian architecture.
I don't think that was a tiger. I don't know what it was, but I want to see it, okay? It was pretty white and black stripes, very cute.
Well-kept neighborhoods, pristine zoos, and conservation.
And what one? Y'all, you guys, let me know if anybody knows what that is. Fucking put a comment, okay? Because I gotta know, like, what that little guy was.
Efforts, Binghamton has been given the well-deserved nickname of Parlor City. With a population of just under 50,000 residents, it's a tiny city surrounded by beautiful American countryside.
It
The
looks
city
lovely.
experienced its glory days as a manufacturing hub in the late 1800s, when cigars and shoes made the town well known across the country. Recently, its economy has relied on services to help keep it afloat, predominantly specializing in healthcare and education. That's where Binghamton University comes in, and is home.
So the industry there is healthcare and education, obviously. Must have. Okay, back to the video. I got way too sidetracked. Jesus.
Self-described as the best public university in the Northeast, it is a world-class institution that offers students a broad, interdisciplinary education with an international perspective. The university does seem to be ranked quite highly by students too. So, it appears that Binghamton is a great place to achieve your degree. However, on March the 9th, 2018, an alarming discovery rocked the university to its very core, and left the city of Binghamton in horror.
Dead body.
When 22-year-old student Haley Anderson failed to return to her student accommodation, her roommates became concerned. Now Haley was both punctual and very good friends with them, so they immediately recognized the unusual behavior. It was on the morning of March the 8th that several of them noticed her failing to reply to any of their text messages. By the time the evening came around, that realization had turned to anxiety when their phone calls were left unanswered too. Their fears were perpetuated when she failed to attend a poetry class that night, and
So I have to admit, there is a benefit to being close to the people around you and like staying in touch. Like for instance, before baby, like I might not call my mom for a month, not on purpose. I would just get busy and with life and everything else, I would just forget. They never be on purpose. But now I talk to both my parents at least. My mom, I talk to her once a week. I talk to my dad like every other day, every couple days. You guys know that. You always see me like taking calls from my dad. So I feel like it's important now that I have like a more of a family unit because I have little ones. It's super important to make sure like I keep in contact with the people around me because if something like this happens, this is exactly what I would want. I would want the people around me to like be worried and concerned. Like normally we hear from her by now. Like why isn't she, you know?
that was finally enough for her friends to act. Now, thankfully, Haley was smart, and she knew how important it was to share her location with her girlfriends. As a result, she had installed Find My Friends on her iPhone, essentially allowing her trusted people to know where she was at any given time of the day. And that is when they realized that her iPhone's last known location was not in the comfort of her own home, but instead at her ex-boyfriend's apartment. An ex-boyfriend who had demonstrated concerning behavior on multiple occasions in the past.
Like what?
Taking matters into their own hands, they traveled to his apartment to find out what was going on. But the story would only get stranger from here. When they arrived at the apartment, they realized that not only were the lights turned off and the doors locked, but her ex-boyfriend's car was not in the driveway. And so, they decided to break in through his window. But this would only lead to the most horrific of discoveries, because after breaking
You think they broke in and then called the cops? You think they called the cops to have the cops break in for them? I wonder.
in, they found their best friend's lifeless
Nah, I feel like in that moment, if like you're that concerned and that worried that like you think somebody might be dead, I feel like I'd go ahead and I'd just fucking bust the shit down. Like, why wait for the cops? They're gonna do the same fucking shit. Here, let me do it for you, so we can find out quicker, instead of waiting for the 30 minutes for the cops to get there, or however long it takes.
body in his bedroom. Of course, naturally, they dialed 911 immediately. Now, trust me, this story only gets more peculiar from here.
Wait,
But before we
did he say they found the body in the
his
bedroom?
bedroom, because after breaking in, they found their best friend's lifeless body in his bedroom. Of course,
Okay.
naturally, they dialed 911 immediately. Now, trust me, this story only gets more peculiar from here. But before we carry on with what happened next, let's first take a look at who Haley was and where she came from.
Okay, tell us
Born
about
on May
Haley.
9th, 1995, Haley
Taurus?
was the youngest of two daughters. Growing up in Westbury, she lived about 200 miles southeast of the university and much closer to New York City. Here, she grew up alongside her father, Gordon, mother, Karen, and older sister, Madeline. Haley was well known for her sense of humor and often cheerful self. She was hardworking, loved music, and was compassionate to all that she knew. So it's no surprise to learn that she made many friends wherever she went, and wasn't afraid to speak her mind. In the year 2013, it was finally time for Haley to fly the nest and begin university. I'm sure this
Okay.
was tough for her parents, but as always, you eventually do have to find
All
your own
American
way.
white girl?
Being the caring and compassionate young woman that she was, she naturally decided to study nursing. And so, later that year, she joined Binghamton University to embark on a 5-year nursing degree. And it looks like Haley had a taste for the finer things in life too. She knew how to make a good cup of coffee, and while attending university, she worked at Jasmine's on-campus coffee shop. Now, of course,
Why? Why do you say it like that? Why did he say it like she's so I don't know, like some super fancy like coffee. I don't know. The way he said it, I wasn't expecting him to just say she just works at like a coffee shop and is a barista.
this was only to get her by while she was studying, because Haley already had a job lined up with Northwell Health Hospital, where she would
That's
have
good.
worked in the emergency rooms after graduating. As a young and confident woman exploring her university years, Haley was comfortable to date other men on campus. And during her final years, that is when she met another student named Orlando Tesoro. But Orlando was a bit of an
What does he mean she was able to date other men on campus? I would assume he misspoke. Or I'm just not understanding what he said because that sounds to me. I'm sorry, like I had my eyes closed, just like I was really like confused for a second. It sounds to me like she's already dating somebody when he says it like that, but she's not. So what does he mean by other men?
odd one, to say the least. With dual citizenship from Nicaragua, he spent the second half of his life in Miami, and so, as a
In
result,
Miami?
he found himself flying between both countries relatively often. Friends described Orlando as kind and someone who always found a way to make you laugh. And apparently, he was both caring and respectful. However, saying that, this is where problems in Haley's life slowly began to form, because, moving forward, she would embark on a relationship with an obsessive demon in disguise. Now, despite enjoying
Orlando?
Orlando's company, Haley was not prepared to anchor herself to anyone while at university. This included her actual ex-boyfriend, Kevin. In fact, she had even met Orlando through him. For the record, Orlando knew Haley's condition.
The fuck is Kevin? Who's Kevin? He's not mentioned Kevin this whole time. He made it, the way he's telling the story, I swear to God, the way he's telling the story, he made it sound like she was living this life and then she went to college and then she met Orlando. And he was the psycho boyfriend. So now I'm wondering when he said other people, and then she met Orlando through Kevin. Was she dating Kevin at the time that she met Orlando? I I could be overthinking it, but I'm curious now.
She had made them very clear to him. But unfortunately, he did not accept her freedom, and that is where the problems began. Although they did have good moments together, Orlando became furious at Haley whenever she hung out with other men or her ex. In fact,
You know, if she just straight up tells you that she's not gonna commit to you and she'd rather just fuck around with different men on campus, like, bro, just take that. I guarantee you, there's another girl somewhere out there on campus that probably wants a committed relationship with one person and will like totally be that for you. But instead, he got obsessed with this girl and is apparently gonna ruin his whole life. Yo, Hoshi, welcome in. What's up? How are you? Happy Monday.
he would often show up at her house uninvited, sit on her porch, and smoke a cigarette.
What? All the red flags right now, you guys. He would just show up to her house. Like, bitch, please, like, don't just show up outside my fucking house. Like, that's so questionable. That's so fucking weird. I should have invited you first. Like, it's one thing if, okay, like, you live in the same neighborhood as somebody, because one time I dated a guy for quite a while, and we lived, like, in the neighborhood. So, yeah, that's one thing. If you live in the neighborhood and you're, like, walking to the corner store or something, and then you're like, oh, okay, let me just stop on by. That's that. But if you like, don't just come over when you live all the way fucking across town and smoke a cigarette outside my fucking house. You could do that anywhere. You do that anywhere. This man is weird. Okay, Orlando, I want to know more.
Sadly, this sort of behavior.
Yes, Hoshi, weird human behaviors. Yes, yes. Laugh it up. Laugh it up. I'm sure you got some weird fucking human behaviors, don't you, Hoshi? Don't you? Sure, all y'all do. We all got weird human behaviors, but we're not fucking serial killers. That's what matters.
Would escalate over the months. In September 2017, Haley woke up to find that
Or are you? I don't know. Let me shut up, because for all I know, there could be a serial killer in chat.
all of her car's tires had been slashed. This
See?
resulted in over $600 worth of damage, which is a lot of money for a student. This clearly was a targeted attack, and Haley was confident that it was Orlando who was to blame. Now, Haley had a hunch it was him because she had just spent the night with her ex, Kevin, and Orlando, he knew about this too. And as we already know,
See. He out here calling everybody a fucking ex. But if she didn't spend the night with Kevin, he's not an ex because he was never a fucking boyfriend anyway. He's still just the fucking friends with benefits. The fuckboy. Like, whatever the fuck you want to call him, you know? Just, ugh.
no, he was the extraordinarily jealous type. Following his outburst, she recorded the entire
Say
incident.
yes, it's me. Thank you for confessing. We appreciate you. Good to know.
On Snapchat. Apparently, Orlando then responded by saying that his tires had been slashed too. I mean, what a coincidence. What are the odds, right? She then told him that she was going to file a police report down at the local station, to which Orlando replied with, "I don't think that's a good idea." Furthermore, he himself never reported his incident to the police. Now, Haley knew that if she were to press charges against Orlando, he likely would have been kicked out of university, and so, in an effort to preserve his career, she decided not to. Now, hindsight is
I swear to God, being nice will get you fucked up, y'all. Being nice, giving somebody too many chances, giving them that third, fourth chance, being like trying to be understanding and empathetic and treat them like a normal human being, but you have to remember that you're not dealing with somebody who's a normal human being. You're not dealing with somebody who's thinking in the spectrum that the rest of us are fucking thinking in. And most of us aren't even thinking like in the same alignment. You know what I mean? But like there's a general flow that we're all, flowing to. And this person's just the shark in the water with the fucking school of fish, basically, if you get what I'm trying to say. A really weird analogy, but I hope you understood what I meant.
always 2020, but Haley, she really didn't want to be cruel to Orlando. So,
In Brawl, of course. Okay, say. Okay. Somehow it always comes back to Brawlhalla with us. I stopped being nice by 6th grade. Yep, I know it's from experience. Wait, Hoshi said I stopped being nice by 6th grade. I feel it. Yep, I know it's from experience. Shaking my head. Right, so we all understand. We all
instead of
know.
showing him the door, she kept him in her life. Now, it's not clear to me if they remained as just friends after this, or if there was something more going on in the background.
Excuse me.
However,
The
it did become
cutscene.
evident to friends that they were still spending one-on-one time together. And tragically, this would end in the most horrific.
It's one thing. Okay. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this one, you guys, because I know I keep stopping it, but I'm kind of here to hear my input, right? You know what I mean? So like, we're all experiencing this together. But like, it's so. It's one thing for her to say you did these things A, B, C, so I'm not gonna do X, Y, Z and get you deported or get you out of college and ruin your life and all that, right? And not gonna report you, any of that. That's one thing. But if you have this fear, this suspicion that this person is like a danger to you and is slashing your tires, why are you still sleeping with them? If they're not your main partner, your main boyfriend, where like you have like a weird, maybe toxic dynamic, right? There might be some uh different stuff going on that's could be abusive or not abusive depending on how you look at it, but like it's it's just crazy to think that if that wasn't her main partner that she had that dynamic with, why would she go back to sleeping with him when she had Kevin already? And from the sounds of it, from what they've said about her throughout the video, and I don't want to speak negatively on this woman, she's passed, but it sounds like she might have been like, open and kind of seeing a couple of different guys around the campus. So what was the point in putting your life in danger by sticking around and choosing to sleep with this one guy, having one-on-one moments with this one guy, if he's not the one that you're like, you guys get what I'm trying to say there? Like, if you don't have that main connection with them to make you do that thing, why do that thing?
Way imaginable. Leading up to the night of her death,
Hoshi said, uh, being nice is what started my emo phase early as hell, 6th grade. Oh, I've been there, you guys. I mean, I've literally shown you guys my wrists before. I've been there. Donnie said, due to recent events that happened last month with my ex, yep, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Oh, Donnie, I know you told me about it. Hoshi says, in my elementary years, I had the thought that people couldn't really do wrong but are capable of mistakes. Yeah, the world proved otherwise. Jaded much? Nah, like, I know exactly what you mean, Hoshi.
Death, Haley was in the final months of university, and I'm sure many of us can remember those bittersweet moments. It was on the evening of March the 7th, 2018, that Haley and a few friends made themselves cozy at home, opened a bottle of wine,
Danny Dan, what's up? Happy Monday. Welcome in. How are you? Hi, hi. Genki desu.
and played several board games late into the night. Haley spent most of the evening and early morning here. However, at around 3 AM, she decided to meet with Orlando, with all of their movements being captured by a surveillance camera next.
Okay, you see what I'm talking about? You guys see what I'm talking about? She's got all these different men that she can, like, pull from. I mean, look at her. She's not a bad looking female, right? Like, and excuse me, I need to, like, stop hanging out with men. Here I am calling her a fucking female. She's not a bad looking woman, is she? Like, you know, if that's what you go for, if you go for like the all American, green eyed, you know, clean white girl, then this is somebody you'd go for, you know? And like, I don't understand. I don't understand. And I wish we could get more inside her head to know what made her decide that the man that is slashing her tires, that is stalking her, that's making her feel uncomfortable, is coming outside her house and smoking cigarettes all times throughout the day. Like, why are you gonna go meet up with him at 3 in the morning? Sweetie, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, fucking call Kevin. Call Kevin. If you got an itch you want to scratch, call Kevin or somebody else because you're about to give your life away. For what? For a fucking 3 a.m. meetup that we probably all know what that's about. If you making that 3 a.m. call, come on now. Like, unless he like convinced her to do it, but if she came over at 3 a.m., she probably like would be thinking the same thing that we're thinking, that that's what he would want, right? So I'm not trying to be explicit, but you guys understand my train of thought here.
Decided to meet with Orlando, with all of their movements being captured by a surveillance camera next door from his property. She travelled to his
Don't laugh at me, you guys. I know there's a lot of guys that call women females, and it bothers me so much. I don't know why it's popping out my mouth because it's not even a part of my vocabulary. Like, women are women. That's that. I'm not a feminist. I promise.
campus apartment, where the two then entered his home at 3:15 AM. It is not entirely clear what happened over the next several hours, but tragically, Haley was strangled to death during that time frame. It is assumed that Orlando murdered her out of jealousy, because if he couldn't have her, well, then no one could.
Okay.
Approximately
So here's I know I'm pausing so much, you guys. I'm so sorry, but this one's got so much going in my head right now. So my brain, as it's telling me that, is literally showing a scene, and in my head they're coming in, right? It's 3:15 in the morning. They're coming in. They you know they did the meetup and all that, and she was there for some hours. Okay, so I imagine like they did the thing, you know, Netflix and chill, all that, and then he probably brings it up, right? They're probably laying there post coitus, all that, and they they talk about it, and he probably brings it up to her, and he's probably not getting the response that he wants, right? She's probably not saying like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stop seeing all the other guys on campus, I'm not gonna fuck with Kevin, you know, all this. She's not giving him that, so he probably just like flipped and strangled her, and that's literally the whole scene that just played in my head in the 10 seconds it took him to tell us that. Excuse
7
me.
hours later, at 10:48 AM, a surveillance camera.
Oh, she said, what's wrong with female? Are we not males and females out here? We are! We are! We are! But the people that I've heard use it say it in like almost a negative context. That's all I mean, Hoshi. That's all I mean. That's all I mean. I'm sorry, Jesus. Get off my case.
recorded Orlando
You damn
leaving his
Mel.
apartment alone. He
You damn Mel.
returned a few minutes later with melatonin and Z-Quil, both of which are used to assist sleeping disorders. And spoiler alert, the reason why he purchased these
Wait a minute, how much you guys want to bet he's about to fucking try to kill himself with sleep medicine?
were not for the right intentions. Several hours later, he was captured leaving the apartment to go to his basement, where he is believed to have found several eye hooks before returning upstairs. Orlando then wrote a letter.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. What the fuck? Wait, he wrote a letter. Okay, now this sounds like some premeditated unalive myself BS if he's about to write a letter.
In Spanish saying, "I never imagined doing this. I'm sorry. Father, I'll see you soon." For reference, his father died several years prior, indicating that he likely meant that he would see him in heaven or hell soon. It is believed that he then screwed these hooks into a door frame and tried to hang himself using his own tie. However,
you know, I don't want to sound like this unsympathetic, uncaring, lack of empathy B word, okay? But just being real. I'm just being real, y'all. What makes you think that fucking door hooks, the door hooks, the ones that you use for like coats and keys and stuff like that, are going to hold your full body weight for you to hang yourself so that you can be unalived? Like, does that sound like somebody committed to the end game? You know, does that sound like somebody that's ready to just all in and don't look back like ever? No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Unless like you're just so out of it mentally, emotionally that somehow you convince yourself that this is gonna work. When any type of like apparently common sense just isn't a part of your life at that moment, I guess, or something. I don't know. But I don't know what made him think that this was a viable option that was going to give him the results that he was going for. I'm curious to see how this goes. Like, did it work or no? Because something's telling me it didn't work. But maybe I'm wrong because here's the picture of the hooks in the ceiling. So maybe it did work and I'm talking shit for nothing. If I am, I'm sorry. But like, I still feel like it was fucking not the smartest idea at all. Okay.
or just fate, he fell and smashed his head instead.
See, I'm not laughing at him like what happened to him. I promise, I promise, I promise, I promise. It's just I was right, okay? I fucking told you. I told you. I knew it. Jesus. Fuck. Let's keep on with the video. I gotta shut the fuck up.
And although blood was observed in the hallway, Orlando did in fact survive the fall. Instead of trying
Of course he didn't try again. He wasn't committed in the first place. Jesus.
again, he decided to change his plans. That is when he packed up his bags, bandaged his head, and made his way to JFK International Airport. And while there,
And I ran so far away. Oh, she said, oh no, that's even worse.
he boarded a plane heading home to Nicaragua, hoping to evade the authorities
I
forever.
and I want you guys to see me laughing.
By now, friends were becoming highly concerned.
I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna fucking cry, I swear to God. Whew. Okay, get it together, Coco. Alright, let's keep it going. This is not at all the right energy for this video, I'm sorry. Alright. I just all I can see in my head is just this fucking clip of him just falling and hitting his head, walking out the door, but it just keeps looping over and over in my head. Oh god. Alright. I'm
Concerned
here.
over Haley's welfare. As we already know, they
Okay. It's literally just on a repeat in my head. Alright, I gotta listen to him so I can get another image. Jesus.
used the Find My Friends app to try and track her down, which of
Okay.
course led them to Orlando's apartment. With no lights on and no car in the driveway, they decided to break in through the window, which
We know.
sadly is when they then found her lifeless body. And although many of them were wondering where Orlando was, he was long gone. After arriving at the crime scene, officers then sectioned off the entire area. But the one peculiar detail here, which is highly concerning and a little bit baffling, is this was not the first time they were at the property this day. It turns out that shortly after murdering Haley, Orlando then messaged his sister to say that he had done something terrible, and that, furthermore, he was a disgrace to the family. Being naturally concerned for her brother,
His
she
sister
contacted
probably
the police
called
to ask
in
for a
like a wellness check, right?
welfare check at his property.
Yeah.
However, after knocking on his front door and being met with silence, the officers simply walked away instead. And of course, Binghamton police then returned a few hours later, this time equipped with the knowledge that there was a life.
Because I think the way welfare checks go, I could be wrong, you guys, but I think that they go and they check on you, but if they don't have a reason to think that like there's something in their life threatening happening, that they probably won't enter.
Body in his bed. However, by the time they'd connected the dots and finally placed Orlando as a suspect in Haley's death, he was already long gone and out of the country.
We are learning new details today about the man wanted for questioning in the suspicious death of a Binghamton.
When did he add this? You guys, we've been watching Coffeehouse crime scene, and I have not seen this scene right here. He's given us with the TV. He made a whole. We got the teapot. I fucking love. That's one of the things I love about Coffeehouse's crime shit, you guys, because you know my shit's tea. Like I love tea. I fuck with tea. Like if I could ever like design something like what he did with like the whole like background and everything, but I would do like a tea shop kind of shit. But yeah, okay, I gotta shut the fuck up. I'm sorry.
University student. Police identify him as Orlando Tercero. He is also a Binghamton nursing student and the ex-boyfriend of 22-year-old Haley Anderson. Police found Anderson's body on Friday at an off-campus home. They want to question Tercero, but say he fled to Nicaragua before authorities found her body.
So, this is where our story becomes a little more complicated when compared to other cases of murder. You see,
Well, he fled.
if a person suspected of murder is detained in the same country where the crime happened, then quite simply, they can be tried according to the country's judicial system. If
Makes
not,
sense.
then most countries have extradition agreements in place in the event that the suspect flees. However, this is solely
That's part of why Snowden fucking went off to fucking what, Russia or wherever he went.
dependent on the relationship between both countries. In Nicaragua's case, there is no treaty in place with the United States, so technically, Orlando was a free man because he was a dual citizen of both countries with no need for extradition. Put simply, Nicaragua did not have to extradite him back to the United States.
So he could go back home to his country and not have to even worry about going back to America to serve the crime. That's kind of fucked. Wow.
And so, this was a very uncomfortable situation for Haley's family. And this certainly was the concern of many officers involved in this case too. In fact, several detectives
Right, Hoshi, that's fucked. Failing and having to remember how you felt for the rest of your life, right? Like, you tried to do this one thing off yourself and you didn't even do that right.
were openly pessimistic about it. The decision with what to do with Orlando would ultimately come down to the Nicaraguan government. And in the meantime, Haley's family and American detectives would all have to wait in the storm of anticipation.
I mean, you guys, come on. He killed, like, an all-American, green-eyed, blonde, white girl. You think they're not gonna put pressure on that, on him, on their government and their police to make sure that, like, something happens to that man? I'm sure they will.
And anxiety. Meanwhile, forensic officers back in America were hard at work in determining Haley's manner of death. An autopsy conducted on her body concluded that she had died from asphyxiation via compression of the neck. Furthermore, she had visible bruising around the neck.
I mean, maybe they won't, but, like, No, the title. He tries to flee. He didn't manage to, so they must have caught him.
And the arms. And it was also determined that she had died during the time she was with
America, police of the
Orlando,
world,
which,
right?
of course, was calculated through the various surveillance footage clips left behind. Meanwhile, Orlando had successfully returned to his family's home country.
Like, I'm sure, like, if
and
he had killed any kind of child, either, like, if he had killed a child, like, they would for sure probably make sure that they fucking get him too. Like, there's just certain, you know what? I'm gonna shut up while I'm ahead. Just gonna quit while I'm ahead.
being picked up by his mother at Managua's International Airport, they then returned to his childhood home. It is not clear how much she knew about her son's actions back in Binghamton, but Orlando was looked after over the next several days, despite an international notice being released to the authorities.
Well, I think that they know something because he texted the sister and told them that he did something wrong. So they know that he did something when he was in America, and that he was in America doing college. It's like, you know, and he's not done. So they know he came back for some kind of serious reason.
However, his freedom would ultimately be short-lived, because only a few days later, and after traveling to a hospital in the city of Leon, Orlando Tesoro was identified and finally arrested. Back at home, Binghamton University was mourning the loss of their student, peer, and friend. Haley Anderson's death caused widespread grief across campus.
R.I.P. Haley. You didn't deserve to go like that. She really didn't. She didn't deserve to go like that at all, you guys.
Classes cancelled for senior nursing students in the wake of her murder. University President Harvey Stenger and nursing head Dean Mario Ortiz released multiple statements, mourning the loss of Haley's death and extending condolences to her friends and family. Through the pain, sadness, and devastation, it was clear that Haley's friends, family, and fellow students all wanted only one thing from here, and that was justice against the monster who was responsible for her death.
Of
And with
course.
the public now aware that he had fled back to Nicaragua, all eyes were on the Nicaraguan authorities and how precisely they would respond. But first, Orlando would face some time in a psychiatric hospital after attempting to take his own life yet again. However, once given the all clear, he was then moved to the Directorate of
I can't. I was trying so hard. I was trying so hard to keep it together this whole video, you guys, for the second half of this video. But he tried again, he still failed. He still failed, you guys. He tried again. He still failed. What? Get dedicated to the cause, please. MF is an immediate 4 out of 10. Look at him, but like a real life lanky short nerd. I like nerds. Hoshi. I'll be right back, you guys. I think I heard my little human waking up. Hang tight. Alright, let's go.
of Judicial Assistance, also known as El Chipote in Managua.
Hoshi said, yeah, but just looking at him staring there, I can tell he's lame. That's so mean. Yeah, but not in a good way. Like a basement weeb type of nerd. You mean the guys that'll like murder you? Yeah, literally that. SMH says Donnie. It sucks that she had to go in that way. If I had to choose my own death, I'll go out laughing. Literally, I'll laugh to death. Jesus, Donnie, fuck. It's brutal. Seems, I don't know. The dying laughing doesn't appeal. Yeah, stay in space is my, like, what I'm thinking right now. Like, the horror, the fear. Like, what?
The United States would initially respond by requesting that Nicaragua extradite Orlando back to the US to face charges of second-degree murder, which in New York State is punishable by up to life in prison with a minimum term of 25 years behind bars. But unfortunately, Nicaragua ultimately rejected this request, which of course infuriated Haley's family and friends. However, they announced that they would try him in his own home country instead, and Orlando was charged with 1 count of femicide, which by the way is not recognized in the US. The definition of femicide is generally considered to involve the intentional murder.
You guys know when he said that, my brain was like, what is that? Femicide? Like, have you guys heard of that? Because I haven't heard of that. What are you finna do with the TV remote? You finna change the channel?
Of a woman by a male aggressor, and of course, the motive behind that can vary quite drastically. In Orlando's case,
wait, what did they say it was?
and
One more time.
generally considered to involve the intentional murder of a woman by a male aggressor, and of course, the motive behind that can vary quite drastically.
The fuck? Murder is murder. Murder is murder. The intentional murder of a female by a male? See, that's why I'm not trying to live in certain countries, because stuff just be a little questionable, a little bit weird, okay?
In Orlando's case, the motive was considered to be jealousy. After getting close to Hailey, he refused to let her go, and those bottled up emotions eventually resulted in violence. During his trial, Hailey's mother and friends confirmed that Orlando was obsessive and possessive with Hailey. They made it clear that he would not leave her alone, often shouted at her, and of course, even slashed her tires. Investigators claimed that he had likely murdered Hailey out of jealousy after coming to terms with the fact that she would never solely be his. And this corroborated sufficiently with his possessive behavior, which was confirmed by multiple sources. Her final autopsy result concluded that she had died from asphyxiation by neck compression. With this happening inside Orlando's home,
I mean, I do have one question I feel like they didn't answer. Actually, there's quite a few questions that I probably had they didn't answer. But, I don't know, my morbid self. Do you guys think he, like, did it with his hands? Do you think he, like, you know? Or you think he, like, put the rope around the neck, you know? Put the lotion on the skin or else gets the hose again. That kind of shit. Like, I don't know. There's options. There's totally options. But I don't know. I'm just really wondering. But I feel like he probably did do it with his hands because there's like so much passion and stuff. I feel like that's probably way more personal to get like hands on with it, literally. Yeah.
and the surveillance footage available, it was almost indisputable that he was the one to murder her. But Orlando, he seemed to have other plans in this trial. Despite being guarded by officers with AK-47s, he appeared to be disinterested, disheveled, and remarkably unfazed by everything around him. He also claimed that he was insane at the time of her death, due to the amount of alcohol he had consumed that night. I mean, sure, Orlando.
I'm sorry, but since when does being drunk equal insanity? 2 plus 2 does not equal 3, my man. That's not how that works.
Alcohol-induced insanity is a perfectly acceptable excuse. You are now free to go. Orlando claimed that he did not remember murdering Hailey and that he must have been in a trance at the time of her death. However, when asked if this had ever happened to him before or after the night of Hailey's death, he was unable to provide any evidence. Now, the very surprising thing here is that many of Orlando's friends from school in Nicaragua did not believe he had murdered Hailey. To them, he was just a sweet, gentle guy who loved her, and there was no way that he was responsible. Many of them still don't believe he is guilty, with some saying that there were no indications that he was possessive. However, it is kind of obvious to assume that, of course, they would have had no way of knowing these details. I mean, it's not like Orlando was going to be honest and tell them. And unfortunately, some of those friends still believe he is innocent to this very day. Anyway, after a mere 1.5 hours of deliberation, the lone judge who was fully responsible came back with her verdict. And no surprise, thankfully, she found Orlando Tercero to be guilty of femicide. As a result, he was ultimately sentenced to 30 years in prison, which, by the way, is the maximum sentence possible for femicide in Nicaragua. As expected, Orlando was not happy with the result, and only 1 year later, he requested to have another psychiatric evaluation. However, thankfully, the court would ultimately reject this appeal, and Orlando still faces 3 decades behind bars to this day. To rub salt into his wounds, an arrest warrant has officially been released by Broome County's district attorney, and they have also promised to request him to be extradited back to the US once his sentence in Nicaragua finishes. And so this means that, despite spending 30 years behind bars, if he is ever to set foot in America again, he will likely have to face a second trial. Now, I don't quite know how it works with dual sentences over the same murder, but I'm guessing it's likely life minus 30 years. Which, you know, is still life. With Orlando's conviction,
I didn't even know
perhaps
that.
Haley's loved ones can finally find the peace and closure they deserve. She is remembered as a beautiful,
hands off the
intelligent, and friendly
Sorry,
girl
guys.
who touched many people's lives. And personally, I think her parents should be very proud of the young woman she became. In her honor, her father picked up her diploma upon her late graduation, and to this day, she is fondly remembered by all who knew her. You know, I find it kind of funny that, although he tried to run away from his crimes, he actually probably received a larger sentence than if he had stayed in America. And I'm
Yeah,
also guessing that
literally.
the prison system in Nicaragua is probably much more brutal and violent. You know, no matter how many times I researched this case, I still find it absolutely insane how so many of his friends still believe he is innocent. Like, guys, come on, he's literally a convicted killer here, wake up. I think the senselessness of it all is what really gets me here too. I mean, there was absolutely no benefit to murdering Haley. Orlando's motive really was just raw, spiteful jealousy. I do greatly respect Haley's friends for breaking into his apartment though, because true friends really do stick together, and they were not prepared to leave her alone. Anyway folks, I think that's pretty much the end of the video today. So, on that note, what do you think about this case? Do you think it was right for her friends to break into Orlando's apartment? And what do you think about his sentence in Nicaragua, as compared to what would happen in the US? As always, let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and thank you so much for making it through.
So, I mean, I don't really need to answer those two questions that he posed at the end of the video because we talked about them throughout the video, so you guys already know how I feel about them breaking in and the other things. But ultimately, really, really sad case, and you know, you gotta be careful who you give your time to, who you give your emotions to, who you give your energy to. You never know who's out to hurt you or you know, who could be the one to kill you. And it's sad, but I'm sure you guys do know that the more often than not, the person that does the murder is someone that does know you personally. Um, but yeah, so that's that. That's some Coffeehouse crime today. Little man is awake from his nap, which is just about right on time. It's 2.5 hours. Usually sleeps about 3 hours. So we are going to go do some things, go outside, take the dog for a walk. Thanks for hanging out with me this evening. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, stay hydrated, happy gaming, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I don't know what we're doing tomorrow, because I did change our schedule around, but probably some Raw. Bye.